I'm live! Yay! Wow. OBS has come a long way in the past few years. So this is stupid spontaneous. I had no intention of doing this an hour ago, but here I am. Adjust my background audio, which is just here for me. Make sure I'm not trying to overcompensate for that, but knowing me, I probably will. Oh, hold on. That's playing somewhere. Tablet. That's playing on the tablet. I have comments open in like 4 different places. Because I know how bad I am at monitoring comments. So I'm doing my best to monitor comments where I can monitor comments. And I've got like 6 billion other plugs going every which way. Forgive me. Wow. Okay, things are just everywhere. Probably easier to do it on my phone, but screw it, I'll do it this way. Yeah, so I'm live in the studio for the first time in probably like 2 or 3 months. It's gonna take me a couple minutes to get and I get like really set up, so forgive me for not kind of jumping straight in. I've had a very weird day, and this is the weirdest part of my very weird day. God, there are so many plugs. If you guys could see how many cords and plugs are going every which way. Clearly I need more extension cords. Actually, come to think of it, I'm gonna go get an extension cord and I'm gonna come back. Wow, that's longer than I wanted that to be. Okay, so we're gonna tablet probably. I'm working on plugs. Give me a minute. Hey, you have to excuse me. My ADHD brain said, "Let's do a live stream tonight." And my rational brain says, "We just had to reinstall Windows in the studio computer. Why the hell would we do that?" So I have two contending brains going on right now. But I'm doing my best to be coherent. And once I am actually like really set up, which I mean, give me like maybe another 10 or 15 minutes, I am going to start painting this. Because my entire day has been reversed. Sorry, I'm probably talking too loud and overcompensating for my music that you guys can't hear. I have AC/DC in my head, so it's like I got to be able to do this rationally and actually do this. So I want to apologize in advance because this is going to be this week's video. I had every intention of it being a painting process video this week, but I ran into the problem of needing to go to my parents' house and change my brakes on my car. So, in addition to also doing a painting process video, which means that I'm moving not only my video camera around, but hopefully trying not to obscure the webcam at the exact same time, while also trying to make a painting. Forgive me if things are a little less coherent, but if any of you guys have been following me for any longer than a period of 6 months, you will know that that is a shit show in and of itself. So, it would help if there weren't plugs and cords going everywhere right now. The other problem is, like, because I know I'm also recording a painting process video, I need to not. Wow, like it's blurry no matter what I do, isn't it? All right, just have to rely on autofocus for that adjustment. So I'm messing with the webcam, which is here, and then I'm messing with my video camera, which is over here behind the webcam, and I'm also trying to paint. So yeah, here we are. But I also have a palette that was covered in plastic and is now dry because it's been sitting for over a week. But the great thing about letting your palette dry is that I know now all of the colors I was using previously, so I can now remake them a lot easier. Also, all of those colors are sitting on my table, so that makes a difference too. So, this is my third palette so far for this piece. Here we go. So now we're like, what, 15 minutes into the show, and I'm actually finally going to get started? Well, at least get started with wherever I'm at with adding color to the palette. Probably, now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have thrown my music playlist into the video description. But I will do that hopefully right now in terms of the chat, and hopefully that'll work. Let's see. Copy link. Paste. There we go. There's my music playlist for tonight if you guys want to have the background audio going. Alright, so I need color going. Main colors here, cobalt, turquoise, and Prussian blue. In terms of our blues. My phthalo blue is a Liquitex that is a mixture of, it doesn't tell me, it just tells me the codes. PB15-3, PB15:3, which is a phthalo variant, PB23, which I think is, I gotta double check. Is it a diox? It is. So it's phthalo, diox, and black. And then cobalt turquoise, which is, I think, just phthalo blue and phthalo green in varying capacities. Those two colors, I am... Here we are. These two colors I am mixing together. For sort of a mid-range blue. Preferably something that leans closer to the turquoise. The Prussian blue here is mostly just for tinting. So this gets me a nice... Excuse me. Mid-ground blue. My yellows tonight and for this painting are nickel azo yellow, PY150, and dialeride yellow, PY83. Primarily the nickel azo, but I am leaning between the dialeride and quinacridone red, which is actually a violet PB19. I talked about this in my video from last week. Vlog from last week, I should say. I am mixing the two high flows, the dialeride and the violet, to get an orange. And then also adding on my titanium white to that for general highlights and stuff like that. So the high flows, again, dialeride yellow, PY83, and Quinn Red PV19 to make an orange, a glorious orange, which when mixed with those aquas and blues, just like mute those colors out. And like all of these darks that you're seeing already, none of this is black. This is all of that. It's Prussian and those blues and greens mixed with the orange to get that really dark. And then white where I need it for highlights and stuff. But my white already is minimal. A lot of my white's drying in the jar because my jar is almost empty. So I hope all of you are doing fantastic this evening. I have no idea how long I'm going to stream tonight, but considering I missed my studio time this morning, I would say bare minimum 2 to 3 hours for me. But there's also a high probability I will run this all the way to midnight if I need to. All right. Also, I know I don't stream a ton, at least on this channel anymore. I am going to do my best to look at chat. But the vast majority of when and where I work tends to lean towards me being ignoring the chat. So if it takes me like 20 minutes to get to you, I'm sorry in advance. But that's just kind of just how it goes when I'm working on stuff. My focus is always on the piece and less on the chat, so I apologize if it takes me a while to get to things. So I also have not touched this since last week, so I gotta remember where the hell I was. I had just dropped in the trees last time I was working. So at this point, I think it's about mixing it into this brown and starting to work on that a little bit. So I'm gonna need at least for this piece, I've got a round brush in particular that I haven't touched in a while that I really want to. Where are we? I might have been thinking of this brush, but it's too large for what I need. I actually might need to supplement in with a smaller flat. Yeah, I knew I should have gone to the art store recently. I need something between this softer bristled round brush and this stiffer bristled round brush. So really I need this brush but smaller, which I don't have. Oh, I have that one. Oh, that'll work. That's softer. Actually, I don't think I've used this brush yet. But that's perfect. It's the perfect size, the perfect round, it's the perfect shape. I wish it was a little stiffer, but we can work with that for now. Wish it was a little stiffer. That's what she said. All right. Wow. Okay. There's my gaming stream mindset coming out. I also have one of the last 2 cans of last year's cranberry Sprite. I am really proud of myself for making my 4 cases of cranberry Sprite last the entire year. Not sponsored, just really love the shit. All right. I did see some comments coming through. So once I get my brown mixed up, I'm going to hop back over to chat, see what's up, see how you guys are doing this evening, or morning, or afternoon, or wherever the case may be. I'm sure, as I've learned over the years, people watch my channel and my stuff from all around the world. So I hope wherever and whatever you're watching, you are doing absolutely fantastic. As I get myself settled and my colors mixed. Alright, got my brown, or at least the base of my brown. This is my orange plus the Nicolazo yellow and a little more red. I've got a nice sort of, it's really close to this color in sort of the almost pure. But I also need to work my lights and darks a little bit and find those shapes. So I'm going to separate a little bit. I want to create an oranger and yellower, brighter kind of color that I can use as highlights. That's nice. I basically just eyeballed and made yellow ochre. So I'll use that as my starter light. The other mid here I will mix with that Prussian cobalt turquoise mix, plus maybe just a hint of red. Prussian blue is my go-to for shadows for most pieces, so I'm gonna. That's much greener. Oh, ooh, actually, yeah, I'll take all of that. You never know what a color mix is really gonna do until it's on your palette and you're really messing with it. That's a deep blue green. It's not black like black, quote unquote black, the way this is, but it's gonna give me probably a lot closer to what I need. A little more red, little more red. I say red, it's a violet, but it's red. I wish you guys could see what I'm seeing. I know I am limited to where I can put the camera, but it's like, oh yeah, more red, more yellow. Just sitting there with a palette and I'm mixing colors sometimes equally as intense. All right. So again, if you're just joining, I am hopping in here. I apologize that this is going to be the only video this week, but getting back to this painting, it was supposed to be a process video this week. Ran into some problems. Not problems. Scheduling changes, I should say, for my day this week. So I'm putting my morning time in tonight, which means that the absolute earliest I can get this video done is going to be next week. So instead, I'm going to be here answering your questions, anything you want to throw in the chat, which takes me a while to get to, but I'm going to do what I can to work on this piece and finally brush the canvas. It's taken me like a half an hour to get here. I'm sorry. I like to ramble. I like to talk. There's a reason why my videos are cut up and formatted the way that they are. Also, if you guys need some more background music, I put that playlist at the playlist I'm listening to at the top of the video chat, so you guys can scroll back and find that. Let's start with my lighter color and mix it with that. And if you guys missed last week's vlog, I'm holding back in the brush. I'm doing more brush heavy work, I guess you could say, and trying to really free up my technique a little bit more than what I would normally do. Oh right, I was supposed to look at chat. I've already forgotten I needed to do that. I saw a bunch of messages and I ignored them. My apologies. I apologize. I'm gonna butcher the hell out of your name. Sujaneth Topampudi. Sujaneth Topampudi. I'm sure that's very wrong. I apologize for my Western cadence. UA 4 a.m. Oh my God, you're amazing for tuning in at 4 a.m. Have a good well, it'd probably be Sunday, so it wouldn't be a work day, hopefully. But I hope you have a good Sunday. Learn things about media, cool. I appreciate aiding in your educational thing, composition. Interactive acrylics. Okay, so I'm assuming you're referring to the Atelier Interactives, which are a slow drying acrylic. I have never used that particular brand. I am unashamedly a Golden fan. As far as I know, the Atelier Interactives. I'm trying to talk over the music that you guys can't hear. As far as I know, Atelier Interactives are a sort of direct competitor to the Golden Opens. I've never used them. I'm sorry that I've never used them. I just I also have limited need even for the open acrylics I have. So my thoughts, my opinions are I know they're a slow drying acrylic similar to Golden Open, but I have no experience with them otherwise. So I can't say one way or the other whether they're good, whether they're bad, or anything like that. other than just I know that they're an option that's out there. Uh, I know I market myself as somebody who knows all the things about all the products, but it's like if I haven't worked with it, I'm not gonna speak on it other than what I can read out of a catalog. So sorry on that sense. I don't. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know enough about them to really speak definitively on them. But yeah, yeah, they're out there. They're a thing. Um, I definitely have noticed there's not a lot of people talking about them. Then again, also haven't done a Google search for them, so who knows? There could be more people reviewing them, and I just don't know about it. Not a not a product line that's really caught my attention in a lot of ways. And honestly, the only reason the Golden Opens caught my attention is because it's golden, and I already use their heavy bodies, and I love their products. So it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, I'll I'll review the Golden Opens, but like all the competitors, like I don't know. Use what you want to. Try some things, stuff like that. What else is in there? Like, oh, it's mainly doing daily quick fun like acrylics. Hate having to keep them wet and mixing on the palette. Wish they would wet without spraying water's retarded. Retarders, yeah. Like I found this out as a primarily acrylic painter, leaning into oils. Um, no, I won't say leaning into oils. I tried oils a couple times and hated them, and it took me well into my late 20s to really start understanding how. I say late 20s, like I'm 40. I'm 34, but within the past, I would say 5 6 years here. Um, uh, if you're approaching acrylics thinking they're going to work like oils, you're doing it wrong. And if you're approaching oils thinking they're going to work like acrylics, you're doing it wrong. Um, my best advice if you're used to oils is to say that acrylics are about layers, oils are about a lot about slow, methodical blending. I mean, all paint is about layers. Like watercolors are about layers. So oils are about layers. But like, unless you are willing to let things dry really quick, the way acrylics do, and if you're like, it's why I don't. It's why I don't use acrylic retarder in any capacity. I've never bought it. I've never found a use for it because for me, it's a matter of trying to make acrylics do something that they're not meant to do. So if your goal is to make acrylics dry as slowly as possible, you need to completely rethink how you're approaching acrylics. Um, I could go into more detail than that, but it would probably take me 4 hours to do it. Um, and a lot of my videos do cover a lot of the techniques that I personally utilize, and then I think at least in terms of acrylic usage, um, is more of what people probably should think about. But again, like there's one of those things where it's like, oh, and I run this to a problem too. Like people are like, oh, well, I know with acrylics you have to use a stay wet palette. I'm like, I don't. I've been painting professionally for a decade. I don't use a stay wet palette. Like if your goal is paint that doesn't dry, acrylics are not for you. Um, well, I don't even want to say that. I don't want to say acrylics aren't for you if you don't like that, but it's also a matter of again, like if you want it to do this one thing, it can. Like retarders, stay wet palettes, spray bottles, stuff like that. It'll work, but it takes way more effort than just letting the paint do what it kind of does naturally. So you can force the paint to do what it wants to do, but if you don't embrace what the paint does on its own, you're doing yourself and the product a disservice by trying to force it to do something it's not designed to do in the first place. Damn, good points and questions right out of the gate. Don't know if you're still watching or not, but hey, I'm all for it. Um, yeah. Too much paint there, at least for what I'm going with. Eh, finger wiping, finger wiping. Don't don't take it further than you need to. Also, I just realized I had not hit record on my other camera, so there might be a little bit of gap there in my process video when that comes out. Hey, I hit the Weird Al track on my playlist. Cool. I've been so hooked on like old original Weird Al stuff, specifically Melanie from his Even Worse album, and Midnight Star from the Weird Al in 3D album. Just like it's like the two songs have been playing on repeat in my head for the better part of the past like week and a half. Once again, my at least starter playlist for tonight is at the top of the comments in the comment section. It's my music to paint by 6 playlist. I do have 5 other ones. Um, I don't know if all of them are still on my website or not. I actually get the feeling they're probably not, but varying circumstances, I will share them. Especially, and I would say especially if you're in the Discord community and ask for them, I will totally give them to you. Anyhow, we were talking about acrylics and oils and blending time and stuff. So I'd like to hit up that comment section again because there was like 1 or 2 comments that got me on a 20-minute tangent. So let's keep jumping. Keep jumping ship here. Alrighty. Gouache for daily practice instead of acrylics. I mean, yeah, water-based mediums, gouache has its place. I can't really jump on that too far. Poured walnut oil in a water brush pen to use oil paints like wonders. It worked well. I mean, okay, that is a definitely a you thing. I'm going to meditation and all right, yeah, like, uh, man, like trying to. That's one of those things like using mediums and things for not what they're designed to do can be really valuable. Um, I am always hesitant to teach or to suggest non conventional methods until I'm like, okay, I think I can talk about this. Something like so yeah, like something using walnut oil in a watercolor brush pen is nuts. It sounds fun. I imagine it probably worked, but I wouldn't go out of my way to suggest it until at least like for my channel and stuff like this, unless I'm really confident going into the technique of the project. But cool that you found that you're finding techniques and finding materials and things like that. That's huge. That's the core of the core of why I do most of what I do is just like, let's see what this does. That's most of my painting it anyway. Let's try this. All right. Feeling pretty good. I'm gonna have to get this color into the other side. Also, I'm Got a fan blowing on me, so I do need to utilize my spray bottle a little. Make sure I'm not drying out too quickly on the palette. So for my goal for this piece, I'm doing a lot more more freeform brush work. I'm holding way back on my brush the way I normally wouldn't. I'm normally like way up here, getting every last little bit. But this piece is a lot more about freeing my brain up a lot more and doing stuff I'm not used to doing. And I'll worry about the details at the very end of the piece. A couple things like the edges I'll pull in a little tighter for, but mostly I'm just worrying about like highlights and shadows and figuring out where things are kind of existing together. Always nice to hear from fans and fellow creatives from wherever you guys are. So I guess since I was talking about it before, I'll jump on it a little bit more. The oil to acrylic thing. Um, a lot of that really is just, I want to say experience, but at the same time, I don't think that's really right because part of it's also knowing the materials and knowing what you have and knowing how to use what you have. And while yeah, some of that's experience, a lot of that's also educate yourself on how things should be used and how other artists have used them and stuff like that. All right, that's probably enough footage on the other camera for now. It's not a it's a PPV. It's not a time lapse, so I don't need to get every single brushstroke. A little more paint up here. Yeah. And pull a little extra texture up in that. Still a little bit opaque on that edge. Also, if you don't utilize finger subtractive and additive methods in your painting, are you even painting? I don't like that. Get your hand in there and scrape it away. Grab a Kleenex and pull at it. You know, that's scrub, do stuff. The limits of a brush and a knife are, well, limited. Glad I grabbed this brush too that I was talking about before. This is definitely closer to where I was hoping to be. Yeah, that's good. And like marks like this, like loading up the brush, even a little tiny thin bits of paint, and just scribbling like that. Add a lot of nuance, a lot of texture to the stuff. Like you gotta be able to be free sometimes. And I know I don't really teach that a lot. I'm again talked about this before. Like I'm really like super detail oriented when it comes to a lot of my work, but sometimes you gotta like break all conventions and do something completely different than what you would normally do. And a lot of what I'm doing in this piece is very much that. Like let's use techniques that I know, techniques that are tried and true from professionals everywhere. Honestly, like I'm not doing anything groundbreaking here. People have been doing this for centuries, but the fact that I'm doing it, the fact that I'm doing something that's so radically different than my normal stuff is, at least for me, it's it's fun, but it's also mentally taxing in a lot of ways. And mentally taxing in the sense that, like, I got to be really careful I don't push things too far, because it would be really easy to get overly, best way to describe this, overly zealous with my brushwork. So I am still thinking. I'm not like just going in here willy nilly and making strokes for the sake of strokes. Strokes for the sake of strokes. Different strokes for different folks. I took something that could have been a dirty joke and turned it into an old timey joke. But really, like, I don't owe anything to the painting, but I also don't owe anything to myself by limiting myself. So I don't know. It's the whole piece, the whole concept of this is a mixing of opposites in a lot of things. So can I do it with detailed brushwork? Yeah, but it's equally as fun to just step back and scribble. Like, I have the idea of value and composition in the back of my head, and that's what guides me through scribbling. But I'm not. It's not. I think that's what I was trying to say. I'm not I'm not just scribbling with paint willy nilly. Like, it's tested, tried and true. I know what I'm going for, I guess is the best way to describe that. Because I know what I'm going for, what I'm looking for in a piece, I can more freely scribble. That is probably the most coherent that thought is going to get tonight. Honestly, I'm more looking forward to working this tomorrow morning. The day really got away from me. I've been playing through. I fired up my GameCube and I'm playing through Metroid Prime 2 for the first time in probably like 6 or 8 years. Got to make sure my retro systems still work. It's weird to me to even call the GameCube a retro system, but I have to remember that I was playing Smash Brothers Melee in high school as a freshman, so it is. At this point, it is. It's depressing as hell to say it, but the GameCube, I guess you could call a retro system at this point. To where, I'm thinking like Nintendo 64 at the latest, but now I'm like, yeah, like it's been 20 years. You gotta call it at some point. Hey Ben, you're an old guy. Deal with it. My brain was like, hey, let's throw some like Gen Z slang in here. I'm like, I don't know any of it. If I heard, I'm like, yeah, that's Gen Z slang, but I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. Somebody could throw some stuff in comments. I'm like, yeah, I think I've heard that. I probably couldn't source it or tell you what it means. Am I still watching? Yes, I'm still watching. Or still listening, anyway. I'm gonna jump over OAR to Bare Naked Ladies, though. I could use some Bare Naked Ladies in my evening. Could always use some fully clothed ladies that hold up scorecards. Whatever. If I can at least get myself through sort of the highlights and shadows of the trees tonight, or at least mid-tone highlights and shadows, not like the defined ones where I'll again sit in real detailed, but if I can kind of get close, I'll be happy with that. Feels pretty good. Scribble a little bit more with it, but I always have to remind myself where my light source is coming from too. Like this screws me up every time I paint, and I'm like, highlight everything, highlight everything, highlight everything. It's like the light source might be coming from here, but all of this is going to be in shadow. I got to be really careful with where I'm adding my light. And by that standpoint, I can actually force a little bit more light in here. I'd say the biggest trick for this piece is going to be to make sure that the tree layer here and the background layer aren't too close to the same value. So finding out exactly where to put those highlights and shadows are tricky enough in and of themselves. It might seem like I know what I'm doing, but I'm just winging it. A lot of intersecting branches happening in here too. Also, given the technique, I can already tell this is going to be one of those paintings I'll have to price up the final cost of a few hundred, just given the level of extra work and detail that's been going into this. Not that that's a problem, but I do like to keep my work more affordable where I can. As I was talking about Metroid Prime 2 earlier, like I'm actually kind of at such a weird moment right now working on this because I really want to go play that game right now. Like I'm like past couple of nights I've been just addicted to playing. Actually, it's mostly what I spent my afternoon doing. So I'm doing my best to rework my brain a little bit. I'm like, hey, you can't sit and play games for 8 hours a day. You actually do have to come down and paint for a bit. Even though the games do inspire my work, still is worth breaking yourself out of bad habits. I wouldn't say gaming's a bad habit, but it can overtake your life a little if you're not careful. I don't want to call anyone out or anything, but I actually recently, somewhat very recently, uh, lost a longtime friendship with a guy that I knew really well, but I guess I didn't know well enough. And it was actually over more or less gaming, and the guy had in many ways, and I can't speak totally on this, but because I'm one side of a conversation, but that friend, like he's kind of lost himself in the gaming lifestyle in a lot of ways, and I may talk about it more extensively in a couple of years from now when the wounds are less deep, but it really it hit me hard recently too because I was like, man, I like you've always been sort of like my fun gaming friend for a long part of my life, and now it's like you at least from my perspective, he took it to the point where he see can't I don't know how to say this without sounding I don't say like an ass, but when you lose track of your friendships outside of the gaming world, it starts to become detrimental, and that's kind of what I got out of it. Like he couldn't separate like an IRL friendship from like online stuff, and it's like okay, this is this is a you problem. This is not a me problem. Um, but yeah, like not to harp on that. Like it hit me really hard this year, and that among you know physical injuries and stuff. This year's been kind of rough. I think friendships take a back seat to you know romantic and intimate relationships a lot, but wow, this is suddenly got like super real talk here. But when friendships dissolve and end, it's rough. But at least personally, when those moments in my life happen, I put myself back in the studio. I you know reinvigorate and double down on the friendships I have, and make sure I'm being a good friend and not being a jackass. And then find ways to move on. That's all you can do, I suppose. No matter what's going on in my life, I can always come to Canvas and find the find the joy in the story and the escape in that. And in the grand scheme of things, that's why, in many ways, that's why I paint. Is it's to escape. And I hope through my tutorials, through my live streams like this one, through things like that, whether you can relate to whatever bullshit's happening in my life or otherwise, um, you can find your own escape in that. That's all creativity is when you can boil it down to a lot of different things, but creative outlets are a way to process emotions and this the raw shit that's happening in your life and doing it in a really healthy way by working that into whether that be a product you can sell and monetize and turn into a business or something that it's just I made this thing out of like this raw emotional state that I've been in. And historically, some of the best art that's ever been made is a result of people just putting their raw feelings into things, whether that be visual art or music or theater, movies, dance, cooking a good meal, whatever. Like we all find our ways of coping with that stress and everything. And for me, it's always been painting. Like I can and as I would say, I would not even strictly I would say I can always come to canvas when I need to, but there have been moments in my life where um, I was craving time with a brush or a pencil. Um, I won't get into any detail, but there was a point when I was in college where I was feeling kind of lost. I like, am I just doing the same thing over and over again? And it felt really, it just like raw. Like I didn't even know, like emotionally, I couldn't process my emotions and my thoughts. And the only thing I could think to do was pull out a piece of paper and draw. And I still have the piece. Now that I'm talking about it, I might as well pull it out. Um, but without even thinking, I just started drawing uh, to process what was going on in my head. And what I ended up drawing was a chain. Um, it's a long chain with a bunch of big links, and in the middle of that chain, they were essentially pulled to the point where they snapped. And by the time I finished that drawing, I realized that this is how I'm feeling right now. I am being pulled at both ends, and I am this chain in the middle that is about to snap in half and shatter into multiple pieces. So, like doing that and it's one of the reasons why I've kept the piece. It's on a piece of newsprint buried in my archives or in the corner. Again, I'm gonna grab it in a minute here, but um, it's one of just like really raw, visceral images. And interestingly, I think about it. I would say at least 3 or 4 times a year. I think about that drawing and where I was at that point in time and how utilizing my creative skill set in art informed how I processed that stuff. So I'm gonna put down my brush. I'm gonna go grab that drawing. So in this old pad of newsprint, it is the only sheet. It's a 18 by 24 sheet of newsprint. Woo! Hello. It's starting to really yellow. But this is what I drew. Uh, in a state of emotional distress in it would have been 2012 is when I made this. And this is just graphite on a piece of newsprint, which again has yellowed considerably since 2012. But yeah, it is very much that. It is the link, the open link to at the bottom. Like it's not a chain all the way down, but it's this broken chain. And that was such a point in my life that things again, like I had reached a breaking point. I'm like, I can keep forcing myself down the same rabbit hole to do the same kind of things, or I can break myself loose. I can break the chain. And so I keep that piece. I keep this drawing for that reason. Um, I also wrote a song. I've never recorded it. Well, I have recorded it. I've never released it as a single, but because I'm a terrible vocalist and I'm really self conscious about it. But um, yeah. So damn. Long story short, um, we all paint for different reasons, and as much as I want to, I'd say be the high and mighty artist in many ways. It's like I am equally as vulnerable to those things, and finding uh, that visceral response is still really important. And I can't remember if I was trying to make this point initially, but this piece feels a lot like that for me right now. In that because I'm doing more freeform brush work and doing things that I don't normally do, I'm actually finding myself able to process a lot of like now too. Like I was revisiting that crap with my friend from earlier this year, and so much of what it's been just spiraling in my head for so many weeks now is just working itself out in the canvas. And I'd never put that in, at least personally. other people might. I'm not saying you're right one way or the other for doing so, but um, just uh, like I wouldn't put in an artist statement. I was going through some shit with this piece. I'm sure it would make value wise more people would be interested in the piece. Like, oh, he was going through shit, so he painted this. But that's not the kind of artist I am. I'm escaping into this world to find something new to focus on other than the random shit that I don't want to deal with emotionally on my own terms. So I don't know what the point I was trying to make was, but this suddenly got super dark and introspective. A lot more so than I would normally get on stream. But I do hope you guys watching have found it at least relatable in that sense. We all go through shit, and being a semi-public figure, I guess you could say, always is a little taxing. Oh yeah, the dark here is really making these shapes pop. I love when I do that. Like it's either somewhere between the darkness and the highlights for a lot of the stuff that really make everything just jump. What's really interesting too is so my palette, you're seeing basically which in theory should be like a deep blue or something. This is actually a deep sort of green almost with what I'm mixing, but because where I'm applying it over the canvas, it looks way like blacker and bluer than it actually is. That's some of the awesome joys of like color harmonies and color relationships that you can do in a piece. Which might seem insane that I'm kind of like talking about ending friendships and mental health struggles while also talking about like complex color harmonies, but when you do enough trial and error painting to the point where you can do that, there you go. Also, whether you guys are fans of his or not, or I would say spiritual or not, keep my friend Psychra, fellow YouTube artist, fairly popular dude, in your thoughts and prayers recently. He's been going through some hard times lately, feeling really down on himself and his art and in his career and everything. And at the very least, stop by his channel and let him know that he's a super awesome dude and should not quit what he's doing. I was talking with him recently after a very long time, and I'm man, like, it sucks to hear you're going through all this stuff, but like you're an awesome artist. You have value, even though you're kind of feeling down on yourself. So if you know the guy, send him some love in my steed. Because that is a YouTube OG that deserves a lot more love, especially considering like he almost lost his entire channel this year thanks to a hacker. A lot of the artist I am today comes from some awesome advice that he gave me when I interviewed him like 10 years ago. Everyone seems to always be going through some shit. Gotta get another shot for the process video here before I forget. I'm working on the roots right in here. I'm like, this is going to be a really awesome close-up shot for this video. Have to remember the capacity of which that I am working tonight is to make a cool piece and also work an eventual video. God, that means the PP is going to be at least pushed back 2 weeks because next week ends up being a vlog. It's I have a love-hate relationship with editing the process videos because it boils down like a month and a half's worth of work into like 3 or 4 minutes, and it's like, wow, that sucks. And then nobody watches them, so I'm like, wow, cool. Spent all this time doing something that nobody gives a shit about. But for those of you that watch the PPVs, thank you. And for those of you that don't, go watch them. They're the one type of video I am the most proud of because it leans on my my days in making short films and stuff like that. Everything I love about video comes out in the process videos. Nobody ever notices. I'm really just loving this more detailed freeform style of painting that I've been doing for this piece. The results are, I would say, marginally really similar to what I do normally, but like if you were to look at it like from 2 inches away, you'd be able to see the difference immediately. Though I am getting remarkably tired, so I am probably gonna have to cut the live stream sometime soon. And pick up on this tomorrow morning. Not the live stream, the painting. Can only do so much in a weekend in terms of video production, but honestly, I'm surprised I'm surprised I'm still talking. I thought I would have had nothing to talk about tonight, but turns out just working on the piece, bringing stuff out. Like I was saying before, like emotional processing through painting. Every little bit helps. Mm. So where are we at for timing? I've been running for about an hour. It's a little. I know I started this. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna paint for like 3 hours. Like painting for an hour. I'm like, I'm exhausted. I want to go to bed. Well, not go to bed. I want to go play Metroid. Honestly, that's really all it is. It's not that I don't want to paint. It's that I don't have the physical energy to stand here, and I would much rather make some ice cream and go and sit down for a while. I knew from the start today was going to be weird and backwards and strange like this, but when my routine is broken up the way that it has been today, it really screws with my head a lot, to where it's probably going to take me a whole other week just to get back to normal. But also that said, I guess promote some stuff now that I'm standing here. Hopefully, next weekend, starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be getting together with the YouTube art community OGs, Meryl Kazanjian from the channel You Draw, which has not uploaded a video in like 8 years, 6 maybe, and Thad Taylor Art, who has also been glaringly absent from the YouTube art community over the past almost decade, for a old-fashioned hangout. Similar to the ones that all three of us were doing a decade ago, when Google Plus still existed. So I've been in talks with them, possibly also Tyler Lucas of Trees to Dreams / Tyler's Art Shack. Although the way it's lining up, his first child is slated to be born next weekend, so there's a high probability he's going to be in the hospital with his wife. But other than that, Um, I'm looking forward to catching up with those guys and talking all kind of things. I'm thinking of some talking points already regarding with how with how YouTube artists and things have changed in the time in which that we had last been live together. It's really weird. Like both of them still to this day have more subscribers than I do. But I'm also the only one still making videos, so it's gonna be an interesting not just with sort of like why they quit, more like not quit YouTube, but like kind of unofficial permanent hiatus, uh, as well as like how things have changed. Like both of them in since like Meryl I interviewed like a year or two ago, but both of them now have kids where they didn't when they were making regular videos, and there's a lot of like the whole landscape of like what it means to be a YouTube artist has changed so drastically to where it was a decade ago. So I'm looking forward to that. If you guys are watching this anytime in the next week, and you remember Thad and Meryl in any capacity from the old days, think of some questions and pop in sometime around 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and we'll maybe take questions and stuff. But at this point in my next week, like the one thing I'm like really focused on is getting some good talking points down and catching up with those guys, and also working on this painting. But for tonight, I am pretty damn tired. Oh, for the love of God, please tell me that I actually hit record and I didn't get just like 2 seconds of nothing. This is the problem with doing a live thing, is I end up... Okay, good. I actually did record some of that. Panicking. I'm like, oh, don't tell me I didn't just mass stop when I should have been mass recording, and mass recording when I should have been mass stopping. All right. But I feel pretty good about that. I mean, I got at the very least the highlights of the trees done. I legit barely have the energy to even touch the shadows of all of these roots right now. So I think I'm going to go ahead and call this here. I hope you guys have enjoyed this hour of rambly rants about painting and, oddly enough, friendships and mental health. I will be back next week with a vlog, and at this point, 2 weeks for the process video for this. Because good God, is this painting taking a lot out of me to do, because it, again, is so wildly different than everything else I do. This is going to be like an $800 painting. I'm feeling it. I'm like, the amount of work I'm putting into this, despite its size, I'm like, God, this one's nuts. This painting is nuts. Probably a like first round batch of prints too. Next time I'm making prints, I get the feeling that this is one of those ones that'll really kind of jump off the page print wise. Anyway, I'm rambling to myself. Good point to know that this is the time to stop, is when I'm just rambling to myself randomly. All right, so that's gonna do it for this live stream. Thanks guys for joining me. I know this was kind of random, but that's usually how it works. So I'm like, hey, I don't have anything else going on. I don't know what to do for the video this week. Let's be live. Let's just go ahead and be live for an hour. So thanks guys for watching. Keep on creating, and this has been from Cinderblock Studios, reminding you to I just said keep on creating, and I will see you guys next time.